everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Thoughts. And today we are talking all about Vinland Saga, episode 15, After Yule. Before we get into it though, I do want to give a big shout out to my boy at Nacho Gashardo for sharing last week's video over on Twitter. And hey, if you would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Vinland Saga video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Okay, so now this episode is going to be pretty heavy. It's not as heavy as last week's video, thank goodness, but it's still going to be, a little bit sad, because I'm a little bit sad right now. Because in this episode, we of course got the inevitable betrayal. And with that, Ragnar is finally gone. And I don't say finally as in like, good, I'm glad he's gone. I mean finally as in, yeah, they really didn't hide that this was going to happen. This was an obvious decision from the jump. I don't think there's anybody who was watching this show who was thinking that Ragnar was going to make it the whole way to the end, that he was going to make, or at the very least that he was going to make it all the way to Gainsborough. I think just about everybody had assumed that at some point something was going to happen, and either they were going to be in a fight and Askeladd would have let Ragnar die, or that Ragnar was going to end up getting axed off by Askeladd, which is of course what ends up happening in this week's episode. And I'm not going to lie, I'm upset. I'm upset. I'm actually sad. I'm genuinely sad to see Ragnar go. When he was introduced, I really didn't like Ragnar. I was like, man, this character's getting my nerves, but I think that's the point. Like, I think I'm supposed to think that he's so different from the other characters that we've seen. And as the show went on, I started to realize that Ragnar did have some points, and that the Vikings that we had been following, they are kind of not the greatest people on the planet. And as it went on, I really warmed up to Ragnar, and I always knew it was going to come to this. I wasn't like trying to trick myself into thinking like, no, he'll make it. Like, I always knew it was going to happen. And I knew it would happen before they even got to where they were going, like that they would either like, again, like I said, that he was going to be in a big battle and Askeladd would have like let him go, like let him fall, or that Ragnar was going to just get axed off by Askeladd. And that's what ends up happening. And I don't know. I'm more sad than I thought I'd be. I'm gonna miss you, young Santa. I'm gonna miss you. Ragnar, my friend, may you enter the Grey Havens with grace. I hope they remember you. That's two references in one moment. I hope you guys are proud of me, because I'm proud of me. But anyway, you know who I'm not proud of? Askeladd or Askeladd, whatever you want to say. My guy. I knew that you were gonna do this, but I'm still upset about it. Listen, last week I had said that Askeladd, or Askeladd, whatever you want to say, is a bad man. He's a bad man, but I still like him. And so many people were like, no, Askeladd's... Okay, in fairness, not everybody said, no, Askeladd's a good man. I think that there was one dude who was actually convinced, like, no, Askeladd's still a good guy. He's still a protagonist. Like, nah, bro. But at the same time, a lot of people were like, well, he's not really the antagonist. He's more of an anti-hero. And I was like, you know what? Maybe those folks are right. But the more I think about it, the more I was reminded of something I said a long time ago when talking about this show. And that's that the show isn't really interested in telling stories about heroes and villains. It's just telling a story about a group of characters trying to make the best decisions they can to get what they want. Now, that doesn't really sound altruistic, but it doesn't exactly seem evil either. It's just that their actions can be construed as one or the other. Like, Askeladd has made some pretty despicable moves, but he's also not someone that I can really hate or say that he's done objectively wrong things. Like, if they left those villagers, they would have died. So I do understand, I just don't agree. I guess like the argument is like, why did you have to raid the village in the first place? So it's... But also, like, Askeladd had to feed his men, and it's a spiral. And I don't think the show is really interested in painting Askeladd as a villain, nor do I think it's really interested in painting Thorfinn or Canute as protagonists and heroes. I think it's just characters. Like, they're just trying to tell you a story about these characters. I don't think there is a villain. I don't think there is a hero. What I'm trying to say is that Vinland Saga is sort of like Game of Thrones season 1 through 4 instead of Game of Thrones season 5 onward. I also gotta say that I think even Askeladd's men are starting to see Askeladd as not quite the figure that they had assumed he was. Because they're even starting to doubt my guy right now. Like, they're saying, like, you ever notice, like, I can't remember their names now, but one of the brothers, like looks to the rest of the group and says like, is it just me or is Askeladd's luck really running out? Because I mean, we just waded through that snowstorm, and now we're heading off, like, and now we're getting chased by the English. Like, is it just me or is Askeladd's luck really kind of running dry here? And that has me very curious, because we've heard this man say that he hates the Danes. And now the Vikings are starting to kind of feel like, you know what, maybe Askeladd's not all that great. Maybe he's not quite the lucky leader that we thought he was. And I don't know how that's going to end up. I'm genuinely kind of nervous, because like I want this group to stay together. And if anything happens to Bjorn, I will riot, because that man, I have a soft spot for Bjorn, okay? But like I don't know. It's getting tense. Things are looking mighty bleak for our group lately. They're not looking too good. But if you thought that things weren't looking good for Askeladd and his crew, then they are looking 10 times worse for my poor boy, Prince Canute. Now, I've also, like Ragnar, done a 180 on Canute, as well as the priest. The priest might be my favorite of these three. Like, I like Ragnar and Canute, but I love the priest. But Canute, in particular, seems to have the worst luck on the planet. And I gotta bring up another Lord of the Rings quote. Prince Canute is the Faramir of this show. Like, he is the brother that was not quite the one that this dad wanted, you know what I mean? Like, that poor man, this poor kid. This is like, you can't even tell me that that's not what's happening right now. If Prince Canute is Faramir, then his brother Harald is Boromir. That's just the thing. I don't know if Harald's gonna get the same treatment as Boromir, but that's just what I'm saying. This poor dude, like when we see him at the beginning of the episode, Ears is making fun of him, saying like, must they constantly beg for forgiveness? And it's the three of them praying to God, you know, for forgiveness and for the safe passage of the souls of the innocent villagers that they slaughtered. And Prince Canute like has this insane outburst on my boy. He just freaks out on the priest, because the priest like is just honest. He's just like, I can't hear you, God. Like I don't like he's basically having a crisis of faith, but he's saying it out loud, and of course the prince can't have that. And Prince Canute is just like, what are you talking about? Like a father always loves his son. And when he said that, I was like, that's not always true. And like that, I knew, like when he said that, I was like, you are not the prince that was promised, my boy. You're not the one he wanted. And hearing Canute try to argue with the priest really gave me a better appreciation for the character, because when he just shouted, like, every father loves his son, is like, oh, like it was just a shot in the heart, because it's like, no, like, that's not always true. And he knows that's not always true, unless he's talking about Ragnar, because let's be real, Ragnar is Canute's dad. Like that's just a fact. Doesn't always have to be blood related. Sometimes just a good man steps up, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, that just bummed me out. Poor Ragnar. It's just made all the worse when we see that the prince is like this great cook. Like that the prince just likes to cook, and his father was like ashamed of his son because he could cook. Because he's like, that's a slave's job. You're a prince. And it's like, let the kid do it. Yes, he's a prince. He should be allowed to do whatever the hell he wants. But apparently not. Prince Canute, the more I think about it, the more he just breaks my heart. Like, he's just a tragic figure in all of this. And it just bums me out, because he's sharing this meal, right? He has this meal with Thorfinn and Ragnar, and the three of them are just maybe not so much Thorfinn, but they're enjoying each other's company, and Thorfinn is like actually having a nice calm meal for once, and it's like an actual meal. It's rabbit soup, and I'm not gonna lie, it looked good. And like, it's just this nice little moment. Just a nice little moment. And I was like, yay. But I remembered what Askeladd said earlier in the episode, and I'm like, this is the last nice little moment, isn't it? It just breaks my heart. Like was this episode as impactful as last week? No. But it's still just sad to see my man go into the Grey Havens, and I don't know. Like, knowing that there's a divide between the Danes over who should lead between Canute and Harald, and it's like, it's just getting more complicated. Even Askeladd's like, this is like, what is my luck? Like, what is happening? So it's just getting more complicated and more sad, and it's, this show is gonna be the end of me. But on that note, everybody, that's gonna wrap up today's episode. I'm gonna go ahead and give this episode a solid B rank. It's a good time and a good send-off for a pretty good character. On that note, everybody, that just about wraps everything up. But before we go, as always, I want to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Ginkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omnigaramond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, and Verdon. Thank you all so much for your continued support over on Patreon, and hey, if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then by all means go ahead and check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get for as little as $1 a month, and get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. But on that note, everybody, that's going to be a video, so I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't going to tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated, and if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.